Welcome back to Change Ed.
Change it.
Your favorite podcast that you turned on and decided to listen to this episode.
Right now.
I am I have hosted. I am a host with a capital H, Andrew Kuhn, education consultant from Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. And here with me is...
Womp womp, Patrice.
Sadness.
I'm not like a showman. Like you make it a thing every time. My name is Patrice Semchek. I'm out of the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and I'm also an educational consultant. And we have with us
Tony Marabito from Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit. You think after 3 seasons that the intro will be a little less awkward?
No.
Every time.
Every time.
Keeping it awkward since 2022.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 1981.
No, you're not that old, are you, Tony?
No, Tony's significantly younger than us.
Anyway,
Tony's
we have as we're continuing on this year,
I feel really bad for people like in this season, how all of season 3 is going to be you trying to make amends for edging Tony and I out of being a host on this podcast because we're recording them all around the same time as my hissy fit. So
yeah. Well, that's every day. So it's not
season 3.
That's not clear.
Wow.
But
you don't get to talk to me like that.
HR, we're in the building
We're
with
in the
HR.
building.
So no surprise to any of our listeners. Season 3, we decided that we were as good as Smartless and that we were going to have surprise guests that come on. It has been an awesome journey. And today...
Hey, name 2 of the hosts from Smartless.
Jason Bateman and Dax Prescott. No.
Shepard.
Dax Shepard.
See?
No, he has his own.
He's been
He has
on.
his own.
No,
He has his own.
the other guy with the thing. And he's, the guy, Will Arnett. Boom.
Which one are you? I think you're the Sean Hayes of the group. I love him.
Anyway,
Not you.
I would
I
like
don't
to
love
learn
you.
more about your guest.
I'm going to delete all this.
Gosh, our poor guest.
Yeah.
She's used to it.
I would like to learn more about your guest. Another person we've never met before.
Will
You
you
really
stop
stretched
it?
out hard finding these guests, finding people who are homegrown. Could you introduce us to your guest?
Our guest is one of my favorite humans, Karri Kessler. She has worked at MCIU forever and a day. And when I first started at the IU, Kessler, we have 2 Karris in our office. So if I call her KK, that's why. But Karri was my autism CLM coach when I was teaching in an autistic support classroom here at the IU. So I've known Karri from day 1 of my MCIU adventure. And then I got the pleasure of working with Karri as a TAC, training and consulting specialist, and focusing on math and ELA. And Karri has been an amazing advocate and an amazing resource in the world of autism. So I'm going to let Karri introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about who she is.
Do I need to after that?
I know.
Sounds
It was really
pretty good.
Thanks, Karri.
Yes, so I'm Karri Kessler, an educational consultant here at the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. I have been at the IU for 23 years, first as a teacher in autistic support, and then as a TAC, training consulting specialist under the Pennsylvania Department of Education Special Education Initiative of Autism.
Wow.
Which no longer exists because we now have pillars.
Yes.
Much easier to say.
The pillars are wonderful. Just don't ask me which one I'm under because I can't remember. It's too new. And I'm old, and that will change as well. So
You being old will change or the pillars will change?
Wow.
both.
You're going to let him talk to you like that in your own house?
I'm going to let him talk to me that way because I think I'm already reversing, when you yell about your parents acting like they're teenagers. Yes. I think I've hit it.
Oh.
And I'm old, but not that old.
Yeah, but you're loving it. I'm
there
loving
you go.
it. So I invited Karri today to talk about, we're going to have some conversations hopefully around what does science look like in an autistic support classroom, or what does it look like in an intensive support classroom? Because we do know that there's some things coming out. I think we just got an email saying that there's new essential content for I forget what it's called, for the PASA.
So in talking to Patrice for today, those of you listening who know about complex kiddos, whether they're autistic support, life skills, multi-disabled. What we've been doing at the state, patent, and IU TAC level is talking to teachers and administrators about the dynamic learning map, or the DLM. In the COVID year of 2020, we adopted DLM to be our alternative assessment platform. So the PASA is from DLM. There are a lot of things associated with that DLM website in terms of instructional resources and, just thinking about educating our more complex learners. We spent a good bit of time talking about ELA and math, but they have redone the STEELS standards. And so what will happen in 2027 is there'll be an updated part to the DLM science, and they're working through everything now. There's things out now, but of course you need to have people out there using the materials, doing some work, testing out the assessment. So that's where we live a little bit with science at the moment.
Yeah. It's still relatively new. And the interesting thing for us to consider as we're talking about STEELS is oftentimes we target the gen ed population. Yes. And we tend to forget that we have to shift our instruction for students who have more complex needs or who have learning support needs and things like that. And so I invited Karri here so we could have some really cool conversations about what could science look like, what should it look like. And it doesn't necessarily mean reducing the content. It means providing access, giving them steps to get them to the spot in which we want them to be at in terms of their science learning.
So now, naturally, my mind is going to universal design for learning because we've recently recorded a podcast talking about UDL. But I think also that seems like a very natural spot because, like you said, okay, we planned for the majority, but what about all of our other students who are also learners and who also want to understand the world better and to be challenged? What does that look like? So that's where my mindset went with this. And from your experience, do you also see that kind of a parallel, or this is kind of a planning for all to get into STEELS and learning?
I think we have a ton of work to do when it comes to STEELS and our complex kiddos. And part of the reason is that in a lot of our more self-contained programs, whether it's autism or autistic support or not, we're spending a lot of time in one-to-one instruction. And so it's not leaving us time to get to everything. Right. And by everything, I mean, even having a rigorous ELA literacy program running, a math program. So you're not going to see STEELS. You're not going to see a lot of social studies because we're spending all day just moving kids out of one-to-one situations. So in the DLM work, what you'll notice if you dive in there is that as they're looking at the standards that they aligned to, they're making links back to ELA and math so that as we get into talking to teachers about DLM, about the STEELS portion, hopefully we can start helping them say, oh, well, that's also this concept of literacy or this concept of math, like patterns, things of that nature. So I think that will help with that discussion. The other thing I would say is when I'm exploring those STEELS, they're called essential elements in the DLM. What they do is they take and reduce in depth and breadth certain standards. There are less STEELS standards than in math and ELA because of the complexity of STEELS. They talk about, and I thought this was really interesting, they have science standards of practice that they embedded in DLM. And I don't have them all memorized. I know the first one is questioning. And I remember that one because in the literature that you look at, they're embedding the other 7 scientific practices within the materials. They have an embedded questioning in there. Nonetheless, they want to do that so science isn't just something like, oh, well, we'll talk about some life cycles. We're not calling it that. So we're going to do the butterflies and we're going to do the plants.
Every year for 10 years.
Right.
Every year for 10 years. What is that? That makes us feel better. Like, oh, I got to science. I did it. I did it as a classroom teacher. It's what I knew or what I thought I could do to, quote, fit it in. So they're trying to, I think, alleviate some of that, where when you delve in and you use some of those resources, you're going to be able to work with kids at different levels and get in some of those higher to me level thinking. Remember, we used to talk about Webb's depth of knowledge, the DOK.
All the time. Yeah. But to your point, like I remember being in the autistic support classes and I was more focused on getting them to even recognize an image. I wasn't getting them to think outside of the box or even focus on science stuff. And we always did because we could bring the caterpillars in and we could watch them turn into butterflies. And occasionally we would have eggs hatching. Like it was those kinds of things which are fun, but not really diving into the science. And what I do like about what you were saying is that the questioning, I like that it's not embedded in, because if I'm talking about science, the way that we're doing science with Steels is the questioning should be happening all the time. The teacher should be asking questions. The kids should be asking questions. So I kind of like that it's not embedded in, because that's just something that should be universal across the...
I was going to say the questioning piece should be tied into ELA and math too. The last math training I was in, they did a notice and wonder in a math problem. And I was like, my mind was blown because I didn't know that could happen. You know, why are we not doing that in every subject, especially with these kiddos that learn so much differently? They're going to naturally have questions, right? So where's the time to allow for all that to happen too?
I heard once several years ago, and I don't know where, if I was at a training or from somebody, that when kids are young and I've raised 2 boys, they ask all the questions, right? The why.
It's Ken Robinson.
Why?
Yeah.
That's who it is.
All of that. And, as parents, you're like, oh my gosh, can we get past that stage? And then we enter our kids into education, kindergarten, first, second grade, public, private, and we just
school it out of them.
Oh, do we ever, right? And so I've raised 2 kids without disabilities. One who he always asked why, and he would have behavior at times because it wasn't because I said so. He didn't respond to that, right? Like, well, why do I have to do this? Well, this is your morning work. Well, it's boring. Who got the email or the phone call that night? I did. So, but it is true. You're right about thinking about how do we keep questioning our kids, but how do we teach low incidence students to question back? What does that mean? My 3-year-old asked me that. And I was like, wait, what's happening right now? So things
and for every
of that
kid, that's going to be different too. What you expect for one student to question might be completely different for another. I came from an elementary school where we had 2 intensive support classrooms and 2 autism support classrooms out in Muhlenberg and Reading. And first of all, they were my favorite classes to visit. But God bless all the teachers in there because they are saints. But listening and kind of following along with their lessons, like sometimes you're just trying to get through whatever they're going through at the moment, and it's less about questioning or even the math standard that you're covering that day, So they just have a special place for sure. Yeah,
and it's providing, and then how do you provide the access when you talk about doing anything, whether it's the Steels, the ELA, the math, as you're alluding to, Tony, how are they communicating? So my son asked, well, I don't understand that. Or what does that mean, Mom? Right? How do we provide the access through their assistive technology?
When they can't physically, or like it's
it might be through gesturing or whatever the case may be.
Or their behavior. Right. Or
we talk in some literacy circles. Our colleague, Andrew, Patrice, and I, Julie Ortlieb, she talks a lot about comprehensive literacy for all. It's the work of Karen Erickson and some other people. And they talk in some of that work when you're thinking about scheduling and having like blocks of time. So it's not necessarily like this is Steele's time or this is this time. So you can have a little bit of an easier flow for what you just said, Tony. Like some days you're like, well, I thought this was going to go this way. And Andrew's under the table. Patrice is trying to exit the classroom, right? And Tony's sitting like just the cherub that he is, ready to.
It's like you watch
almost like she knows us.
Called us out. She just met Tony and knows that he's the one that's staying in his seat.
Yeah. But, and we've all been there. And even in general education classrooms, you have the days where as teachers, as just humans, where it all goes right. And sometimes it all goes to the crapper.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I think I really liked about what you and I were doing back when I was in the autistic support classroom was we were talking about how can I, to your point, chunk my day. And what I think is really important for us to continue to think about and to learn about is how can I use science and social studies to teach ELA and math? Yeah. Because I can study a phenomenon and I have to read about it. I have to write about it. I can do some math to like chart it or graph it or all of those things. And I think that if we can shift a little bit from, I just remember my brain is going to how many classrooms did we go into, KK, that had weather charts? And that's all the science was a weather chart. We tracked the weather for the day. And they were like, well, that we just did science during Circle. And that is, yes, data collection, but it's not science, understanding why the clouds are in the sky and that kind of thing.
I think we need definitions of what is instruction and what is just tracking goals.
Yeah.
So what we see a lot in different classrooms as consultants, I believe, is I'm sitting as the teacher with you, Tony, and I am drill and practicing your IEP goals. So you have a decoding goal, you have a multiple meaning word goal. So maybe I can pull in some steals words, for that, things like that. That's not teaching. Those things find themselves on an IEP because they're skills you don't have. Yeah. And there has to be teaching. And
there's skills that you need to access the education. Yes. That's where I think if we can shift the language, and that's where I'm with the GIEP stuff, the gifted stuff, same thing. I need these skills to be able to access different curriculum and different learning. So if we can, I love that. Karri, I'm stealing it.
I met with a friend and colleague. Her name's Liz Maurer. Shameless plug. She has business data, makes the difference. Her and her husband have raised 2 children. One is I think she's probably about 26, their daughter with a disability. And Liz formerly worked for the Pennsylvania Autism Initiative doing the intensive teaching VB MAP work. But her and her husband got involved in, I forget the story, with Essential for Living. It's EFL. It's another program that's ABA VB based. But we had this conversation yesterday about EFL. But she was saying something to our colleague, Cassie, and I, and she said, it takes time, but do we look at our class and look at each student and say, is their program the most relevant for them? And I wrote it down. I was like, Liz, I'm stealing it because she's exactly right. But it doesn't happen overnight. No. So in the context of picking those literacy, math, steals type targets along with their behavior or social, emotional targets, what is most relevant to the kid? And when you're talking, Patrice, about how do you combine them? Yeah. How do you look at what they need to learn in literacy and math and science and or social studies? Because that might be what's going to be relevant for their life.
Yes.
Not so much just pulling out these skills and knowing that, yes, we do need to learn to decode, or we need early numeracy skills. Can we subitize? Can we, use a number line and things like that? Absolutely. But how does that help?
Yeah.
How do you incorporate that to weather?
How is that going to help them be successful adults?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when you said relevant to that individual person, student, and their success moving forward and throughout the years, right? Because what might be relevant to Patrice is not going to be the same. She's way more advanced than Andrew is. So we have to.
There's a theme here on this podcast.
But we have to make sure that you're spot on. The big idea, that big goal for them is going to look completely different. We just have to make sure we're hitting that. And if we can tie those standards in there, I think we're doing okay.
Right. Yeah. And what you said too, Patrice, about, like the chunking. So, you can chain things. It's a applied behavioral analysis method or strategy, right? You can forward chain, you can backward chain. I think about your work, Patrice, in particular with backwards design. How do we think about what kids need at 22 and backward down, because I think that would help us as well. And then you make things more relevant if you can do some of that work.
Well, on that mindset, I will say that from my perspective, the new steel standards were designed in such a way of like, let's move this along progressively. And I think one of the challenges, earlier we talked about the butterfly, that we're all experiencing the butterfly multiple times in our educational career. In rainbows. But we'll know in a very short matter of time, a couple of years, whether or not someone has actually adopted steels. Because if we were to go into a school district, anyone, and they were to see we're still doing butterflies, and that hasn't happened because it was intentionally chunked. Yeah. It was intentionally grouped together. So it was like in middle school, this should happen. Not specifically sixth grade, do this. Because I think what people were finding was, okay, yep, that butterfly works here, but it also works in 7th grade and 8th grade and 9th grade. And, and we kept doing it. And so that's the beauty, and something that I don't know that we've mentioned so far in season 3, but it's an oldie but a goodie, that with the old standards, we went a mile wide, but an inch deep. And with these new standards, we're looking to go an inch wide and a mile deep.
Right.
And the point of that is that we want to be able to go further so that when we're not with our students, they have some mechanism that they can reference to and say, this is how we kind of work through this problem in my class.
And it's really about problem solving, right? Like if we are finding a question and figuring out how to solve it, I think if we can get our kids with more complex needs to really focus on that part of the science, it's the scientific thinking. Maybe they don't need to know about like all the different types of rocks. While cool, fun, it's what skills are going to help them later on, how to identify a problem, and then how to figure out how to solve it. Ooh, was that like a song? Okay.
But the dance you just did, you're like, yep, I nailed it. I nailed some song, you guys. And we're all like, nope.
Something like, but DJ, I'll solve it. You know what I'm talking about?
Nothing.
DJ revolve it?
Was that it?
Not I'll solve it.
No, that's not right.
Anyway, I don't know. I think I went to,
I did like a little
those songs that were Saturday morning cartoons when I was little, like, construction.
Maybe it is a kid's.
Conjunction.
Maybe it is.
Yeah, thank
you. Maybe it's
the Bill
Bob
on Capitol
the Builder.
Hill.
Maybe it's Bob the Builder, I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, you jammed out like it was not Bob the Builder.
I jammed out the Bob the Builder.
Bob the Builder move like that.
Anyway,
it was popular in our house too.
Well, again, I've actually talked about this before, but what's resonating with me now is that the importance of having this intentionally designed this way. I read Outsiders 3 different times because I moved 3 straight years. And each state was on their curriculum. It was something different they were doing. So last night, I went to my son's open house for a program that he's part of at his school. And they were talking about The Outsiders. Like, has anybody read it? And I'm like, can somebody else put a hand up for me? Have you seen the movie? Can somebody else put a hand up for me? Because I had both my hands up. And that's where I was kind of going with that. Like, if we keep repeating, sure. Like, I felt very successful. The third time we were talking about The Outsiders, I'm like, oh, hey, you guys didn't even talk about this, which they talked about in Ohio. You
must have sounded really intelligent by the third time.
Yeah, that's why I just keep talking about the same things on the podcast all the time.
Is that why they finally passed you to 7th grade from 6th grade?
This guy on.
What you're not telling everybody is you were in 6th grade 3 times.
Yeah. All the same school. They just
they call that reclassing these days. You were reclassed.
Yeah. Thank you. I can't wait for this episode to be done. So,
Tony's gonna be like, I need to work for MCIU because they know how to have fun over there.
Reclass Coon.
We're making shirts.
I seriously, that's what I'm going to call them.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
And she will too. It'll stick for 5 years.
We're never doing a surprise guest ever again.
No, this is the best. I'm just going to keep bringing IU colleagues. Raz Andrew.
So there's a level of success that I can feel as a learner because I had already read the book and I didn't have to read it again and I could be part of the conversation. I knew that, I knew where this is going. I knew that. And so that's what a lot of our learners might feel like, oh, butterflies. I know what we're doing. Like there's success there.
Well, I think the teachers feel comfortable in that too.
And they feel comfortable in that too. Yeah. So the important,
I guess it's engaging. Like it's engaging. You can talk.
Kids love this every year. That's why we do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, where I'm going is that learning doesn't happen in comfort.
Right.
That we need to step into a different space.
That's profound.
Well, it's about perseverance, right? I mean, that's in the mathematical practices. And I believe there's something along that lines in those scientific elements I was telling you about that I can't remember all, but just the first one. There are different programs I work in where we talk about helping students learn to do what is non-preferred, right? Yeah. Things that you don't like, things we do all the time as parents or caregivers or employees, all of that. But what I really wanted to say to Andrew's point was the idea that when we repeat, sometimes our kids in our complex or our more significant kids, the teacher will say to you, but Karri, the data's all over the place, right? I'm not sure that they have it, quote, mastered, right? And some of my argument back to that is, how many times do you want to be asked how to dress the weather bear? Or do the days of the week. One of my favorite stories is being in a high school program, going around with the supervisor. This is probably almost a decade ago since this happened. But we're going room to room and I'm getting a feel for their program. And it's high school and they're doing the weather. And literally, I think they had a weather bear. Oh my gosh. Now, remind me, it's 10 years ago. Nonetheless, kid went across the table at the teacher. And okay, so we can't allow that. That's not an employability skill. You can't go across the table at your boss because you don't like that they repeated themselves. Yeah. But we walked out of the classroom and I looked at her and I said, I might go across the table too because I'm in high school and how many times have I answered these questions around
dressing a bear,
what we do around morning meeting kinds of times. And so I ask my teachers now, take a look sometimes. Do I grew up Tom and Jerry, with the angel and devil on your shoulder. Can you sort of have an out-of-body experience in your own classroom and say, I've asked Patrice this every day for 6 weeks or the last 3 years. Yeah. I think she knows it. I think sometimes she's probably
it's time to move on.
I'm done. I'm not going to answer this again because maybe I'm not getting it right. Yeah. So I have to say it this way or I say it this way. Yeah. We have to kind of think about our data. We have to think about what we're doing. So if we can, Andrew, look at some of those units, how do they grow? And in the dynamic learning maps, when you look at the essential elements, so by the way, the essential elements replace the alternate eligible content in the PA standards. When we adopted dynamic learning maps, we adopted that. And so in those EEs, you have linkage levels. So kids can be taught the same concept, but you and Steele's, one of you might be initial, one of you might be precursor, and one of you might be target. And so you can run lessons that way. The same is true over the scope of the K to 12, if you will, set of essential elements. Yeah. They grow with the students. So you can make things more rigorous, make them continue to be more relevant to change that sort of that. Yeah.
I love that you used my name. And the way you did it made it seem like to the listener that I wasn't paying attention. Like you were bringing me back and you're like, Andrew. And then you kept going, which is not the case. I was 100% with you.
She knows you.
At least from my
I know, but I said something else before I went back to what your point was. So I was just clarifying.
You're using me as a transition point.
I sure did, because you can see the ADHD kicking in with me.
Well, the other thing I want to point out is you were saying there's a lot that Patrice can do. The one thing she can't do is dance to Bob the Builder, because whatever you were doing a little bit ago, that was a mess.
First of all, I can dance to Bob the Builder. You didn't like my version of the dance. So you are the barrier, not me. I can dance.
I'm the barrier again. This is continuing for the whole season.
Karri, what you were saying before.
Thank you, Tony.
Well, I'm trying to think now. I'm sorry, Tony.
No,
the whole Bob the Builder. Can we build it?
Yes, we can.
That was it.
I think that should be like a mantra in a classroom. Like, can we do it? Yes, we can.
Andrew says it every morning.
Can we solve it? Go ahead,
okay,
Tony.
sorry.
You're trying to be
no, it's fine.
Capital H host. Go ahead, sir.
When you were mentioning the 12th grader with the weather bear doing this over and over and over again, I think going back to our conversation with Rob this morning about math and getting answers, you found the song?
I did.
Let's hear it.
It's Ice Ice Baby. If there's a problem, I'll solve it.
Oh my gosh, that's not at all what you were
That's
singing.
what I said.
That's not where you were going.
Tony,
That was
don't
a
agree with him.
No, I don't agree. How Rob was saying the journey of solving the problem
Yeah.
and just making a miscalculation.
Yeah.
So the student has known how to do this for a long time and maybe they just misspoke or they miscalculated.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to reassess our view on what's a right answer, what's a wrong answer, and that. So I think it all ties together, whether you're a regular ed support classroom, like what have you. I think we have to
figure out where the breakdown was. Was it a breakdown in their understanding, or was it a misspeaking, a miscalculation, a miss whatever? Yep, I agree.
I think there's also, Tony, what you're talking about, a misnomer about teaching to mastery. Now, one, what is mastery? 70%, 80%, 100%. Not every skill, and probably many, don't need to be taught to mastery.
Right.
And so we are, again, to pick on like drill and practice skills that we're waiting for some magical number to rain down like a
we hit 70.
rainbow.
We're done.
We're done.
Yeah,
You're good.
we're done.
Rainbow.
And be like, la,
They
you're
got
ready.
it. And I never have to do that again. Check. That's kind of what
I'm
it is
sorry,
too.
you're only 68. You did not hit mastery.
No, but that's literally what is happening.
Yeah.
That's what
I'm saying. Yeah.
That's literally what's happening.
And then that goes back to the relevancy. Is this really relevant to the student for their success when they leave us?
Why are we still doing analog clocks every time? Like,
well, you're right. Like updating practices. So why are we teaching time or weather in certain ways when you could teach an app on a smart device
That's a much more life
says,
skill focused area.
let me say, if you're between 65 and 80, shorts, short sleeves, maybe a jacket.
Right.
Anything probably 75 to 100 is a t-shirt and shorts. Like
Much more
teach
relevant
that so
down the road.
that you're not doing the weather bear so much. And there's not really a lot of weather bears around anymore. I will say that. But some of those same storied practices are there. And that's what I think we need to kind of retool.
Yes. And I'm not saying we should get rid of the benchmark altogether. Like 70 might be your number, but let the teacher decide whether that student's ready to move on or not.
68 is okay.
68's okay. Yes. We need some kind of benchmark or we'll just skip everything.
Well, and some are precursor skills. And what many people who work with low incidence students will tell you is you don't understand sometimes how they have skill F when they're missing D and E. So again, teaching to that mastery, waiting for the, rainbow to show up is not a good use of time on a lot of levels.
Right.
Karri, we are running out of time. So I want to give you a choice. Would you like to provide the second to last final thought?
Oh.
Or we could all jam out to a remix I just made of Ice Ice Baby and Bob the Builder. It's totally your choice.
Oh, I think I really need the Ice Ice Baby Bob the Builder remix. You're offering it to the audience. I can't take that
Andrew,
from them.
Please.
You know what? Unfortunately, the video feed just broke down.
You know what?
So we're going to go with the
another
second to last
opportunity
final
to
thought.
embarrass Patrice to make her feel bad about showing her authentic self.
Andrew would never do that.
So thank you, Tony.
Did you hear the sarcasm?
No.
Did you hear the sarcasm? Because everyone else
I
heard
am a
it.
monotone sarcasm individual. Anyway,
I just want to know that if Andrew really had developed this Bob the Builder Ice Ice Baby remix,
I would have danced.
Well, no, I think I'm offended because that means he wasn't listening to me and he was writing on his paper over
actually
there.
what I was trying to tell you. I'm so busy listening to you, I didn't actually make it. It was you called my bluff. Ice Ice Baby, can we build it? Yes, we can.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
So, Karri,
I have a choice anymore. Second to last thought, please.
Second to last thought for our conversation here, and something that maybe you didn't get to say or that you think would be important for
anything
the
you want to
audience
inspire us
hear.
with or leave us with.
I would say that this is such a cool and important conversation to think about all our learners. We just got off a meeting. What does all mean? And so how do you think about all learners and what is available to us, things like the DLM with their essential elements, to continue to build on our instructional practice and how we're doing instruction across all these important content areas.
That was a good one, KK.
Well done. Now I'll just make it a train wreck and then we'll call it an episode. The thing that's been sitting with me this entire conversation is that our work is not done. And I think in a lot of ways, I'll speak for myself on this journey that we've spent over 3 years working in Steels, trying to empower educators. And as we see that progress, it's like, yes, we're getting there, right? We're getting on board. This is happening. But this conversation has opened my eyes to say, like, there's still a lot that we have to do.
Yep.
You know, even if we get to 70% mastery, that doesn't mean that we got everyone on board. And what does that work look like? To paraphrase what you said, how can we empower educators and our learning process so that we're including all, and not some, not most, not the majority, but all? If we don't include everyone, have we really achieved what we're looking to achieve? So I think it's a great opportunity for intentional collaboration and conversations to happen, and also to further our learning. You've inspired me to continue to think about this in a broader sense and expand my view of all, with the exception of Patrice. If we don't include Patrice, we still have all.
Because I already get it.
Because you already got it. Yeah.
Thank you, Carrie. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure.
Tony's like, and we're wrapping this up.
For including me.
You're done.
Thank you for being on the show. As always, thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to like,
subscribe, and send us a text.
Send us a text right underneath the title of our episode. There, you can contact us to continue the conversation.